I'm getting started on a brand new tune in Ableton, and I want to fast track the inspiration process. I'm limiting myself to working with sampled sounds, and I'll show a couple of tricks for generating ideas quickly using Midicake ARP. This is only going to be a short one, so hit like now and let's get to it. Okay, this is my Ableton setup. It's really just 3 channels. For inspiration, I came across this sampled sound on freesound.org, and so I've dropped it into simpler. Let's slice that up by beat and set the trigger to gate. I've set this up on channel 3. It's 8 beats per bar, 8 steps, and so that's going to play the 8 steps of our sliced up sample. I've matched the tempo to make it easier. When working with samples that require specific MIDI notes to trigger them, it's important to lock the note and scale. So I've locked it to note C and the chromatic scale. So now, no matter where I play it, it's locked to the note and scale. This prevents us from transposing on the fly, but that's kind of the nature of sampling in this way. In this kind of setup, the MIDI note data isn't affecting the sample's pitch. Instead, it's telling it which slice to play. And we want that to be controlled by ARP's sequence, so we can do this. You get the idea. Being sliced, we can now also increase the tempo. I've also set a macro on ARP to the transpose function on the slice so that we can tune the sample later to fit the other instruments. Now let's add a kalimba sound to keep our theme going. I have this Kontakt instrument, and I have this assigned on channel 1. I'm going to just add an EQ to bring out the higher frequencies. I'm leaving the lower frequencies in because this sound is going to do quite a lot of work in our mix. I also want it to fit with that sample from earlier, so there's a kind of Hall reverb effect on there, so I'm adding the same kind of sound to our kalimba. So let's use that macro to tune in our vocal sample. Yeah, that works okay. Now I'm using a minor scale, as that's pretty close to our sample, and so it tracks really nicely, even though the sample's pitch is static. Now we need some inspiration in terms of a melody that we can build on, and that's why we're using ARP. I could use the basic parameters like steps, direction and bounce to find something that I like. But instead, I'm going to leave steps as 1 and use some modulation instead. So I'm going to add an FX seed to the note offset. I've just got steps of 1 and I'm going to note offset using, I picked a seed earlier, and I'm going to use 4 bars. So it's going to repeat that seed and that change, that modulation based on the pattern every 4 bars. And as I apply that, get a pattern generated. And of course I could use a different seed. And at this speed we get a kind of pseudo-randomness, but it is repeating. Now you may notice as we're playing this that we're missing some notes. And the reason for that is because there's quite a narrow range of pitches for this sampled instrument. And that's indicative of the original instrument that it was recorded from, the kalimba. We can actually do something to help prevent that though. If we go into note and go to the note limit, we can set the number of semitones that we are going to limit our wanderings by. And so it forces the pseudo-random generation of the effects seed to stay within the limits of that plus or minus 16 semitones either side of the current root note. That just fixes the problem. Then to give us some rhythm, we can use a modulation on time division. So I'm going to come to time modulation A. It's set to time division. It's just on a sine wave, and I'm going to run it for 2 bars. And as we apply it, we start getting some mix-up in the rhythm. And of course we can increase that. Yeah, let's go with that. Now for some beats. I have to go to Kontakt's West Africa pack for this one. This is an interesting pack because it doesn't just have single hits. It also has some phrases, variations and fills, etc. assigned to different notes. So we have individual note hits. Now I'm not going to lock this channel because we have a huge range of variations that we can make use of simply by changing the root note and chord. I just have a single step at the minute. But what's really cool is as we increase the number of steps, we can get some really interesting patterns forming. And we can just use the parameters to adjust that. And we can also apply modulations too that automate those parameter changes. Let's put a rhythm on it and let's enable these. What do we have? We have note offset and a time division modulation over 3 bars. I'm going to remove that repeat. Yeah, we'll give that a go and see what happens. We can always adjust this later. I mean, this is just about inspiration. So let's bring all this together now. So I'm going to reduce that sample so it only plays every so often. And I think that sounds a little bit choppy now. So I'm going to add some reverb, kind of echo, just to fill that gap. And I'm going to use Valhalla Supermassive, which I just love. Yeah, I think that's cool. So hopefully that shows how we can use ARP's chord machine to explore new ideas and find things that we like really quickly. I mean, that came together pretty quickly. And also using Ableton to record the MIDI as well as the audio means that we can capture it and use it later. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this interesting. Please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your suggestions on working with samples and what you do to get inspired too. And before you go, hit subscribe. YouTube just blanks me if I don't say that. Cheers. See you in the next one.